Salutations, crustaceans. I'm Lobster, and today we're going to be reviewing a Jackson that's trying to be an Ibanez Soundgear. This is the Jackson SB V Pro Series. Let's check it out. This is the Jackson Pro Series Spectra SB V, and I wouldn't blame you if you thought, hey, didn't you just review this Ibanez like a few months ago? And I guess you're sort of right. We reviewed the Ibanez SR605, which is a very similar looking bass. However, this is a completely different instrument. It just looks very similar to that of the Ibanez Soundgears. With this particular model, Jackson is gunning for the higher-end Ibanez 1605. However, it differs in some large ways, including the scale length, with this offering a 35-inch scale 5-string, as opposed to the Ibanez's 34-inch. And other than that, there's really not much to differentiate these basses from the Ibanez. But has Jackson made a successful Soundgear here? We're going to be finding out today. Let's go over the specs of this Spectra Pro Series SB V. This has a maple top as opposed to the poplar burl, which is on some of the other finishes. For some reason it's listed as a poplar burl top, but there is no poplar burl and it very much looks like maple. So I'm going to call it maple. I could be wrong. But there's a few other laminates in between this top and the mahogany body. We have a walnut and a maple laminate beneath this top here, and it looks pretty cool, especially along the curves. This bass has a neck-through body construction for this 35-inch scale, maple, walnut, 5-piece neck. The fingerboard is a 24-fret roasted Jatoba fingerboard with a 35-inch scale, as I said, and we have a 44.5 millimeter nut width, and we have a 12 to 16-inch compound radius as well. For electronics, we have two Nordstrand branded, however I suspect these are the import Nordstrands. These are the SB V pickups. These are single coil, basically like the big singles, however I believe these are produced overseas. And this is paired to a 3-band Jackson preamp. This is a very similar preamp to that of the Ibanez Soundgear, however it lacks the passive tone control when the preamp is bypassed via the Preamp Bypass switch. It's a 3-band preamp with a variable mid-frequency via another toggle switch. We have a 3-way toggle switch for 3 different mid-frequencies. What those frequencies are? I have no idea. It is not documented anywhere. However, it seems to be like a high frequency, mid-frequency, and low frequency. I'm guessing probably 250 Hz, 500, and 1000. I could be wrong, but they don't really document it anywhere. These are great sounding single coil pickups, and paired with this 3-band preamp, you do get a lot of tonal flexibility. But the Ibanez Soundgear one-ups this bass with the passive tone control when the preamp is bypassed. Hardware-wise, we have individual bridge units for each of the 5 strings. Off the bat, I'm just going to say it, for their flagship Spectra bass, I wish they used a better bridge. These little bridge things are stupid. They are very bad. There is no screw to control the intonation. Instead, you set it with your finger, like you pull and push the little saddle, and you need to loosen the string for that. You can't set the intonation with the string even remotely in tune. So it is a pain in the butt with these little bridges here. I wish they used a better bridge. I know it's meant to look like the Ibanez individual saddle bridges, but those bridges have an intonation screw and some real variable spacing where you can kind of fine-tune the spacing to your liking a bit. This has more of a Warwick-style saddle construction, and I hate these things. Here's a picture of the bridge up close, and yeah, I hate these bridges. Opposite of these terrible bridges is the Jackson headstock. This is the Spectra headstock, not the pointy headstock that Jackson is known for, and I think it looks great here, especially with the matching finish. The Jackson tuners work nicely, and I haven't had any issues with those. Now let's go ahead and turn this bass around. Around back, we can see a medium-sized control cavity, as well as a separate battery compartment with a battery door. Other than that, we can see the mahogany body and the 5-piece maple and walnut neck. It's a neck-through construction once again, so the neck extends all the way through the body. We can also see the back of this neck, and I just have to say that the profile is very different from that of a Soundgear. It's a bit meatier. Moving up, we can see a light flame on this 5-piece maple and walnut neck. I think it looks nice, and we can also once again see the Jackson branded tuners up at the Headstock. Now, how much does the Ibanez... I called it an Ibanez. I keep calling it an Ibanez. Now, how much does the Jackson Spectra SB V Pro Series weigh? This particular example comes in at 8.2 pounds, which is very lightweight for a 35-inch scale 5-string. Not bad. And how much does the Jackson Spectra SB V cost? These come in at $1,049, which is a few $100s cheaper than the Soundgear SR1605, but a few $100s more expensive than the SR605, which is also rocking Nordstrand branded electronics. This bass definitely has its competition cut out for it. And I know you're all wondering, what does this bass sound like? You all know what you need to do. Go ahead and pinch that like button so my hand will turn back to normal. Thanks. Oh, that is a snappy, bright tone that we're getting out of the Jackson Pro Series Spectra SB V. Playability-wise, the neck is definitely on the chunkier side compared to that of a Soundgear, which is a bit thinner in terms of just the overall profile. This bass is actually a half a millimeter slimmer compared to a 5-string Soundgear. This has a 44.5 millimeter nut width, the Soundgears are 45. However, the overall profile on this is a bit girthier. String spacing wise, it's listed as 16.5 millimeters. However, I measured it out and it's actually a bit closer to 16, but you do have some play with these saddles here. It's definitely on the tight side, and combined with the girthier neck profile here, and that tight spacing combined with the girthier neck profile makes the playing experience a bit more challenging compared to that of the Soundgear, which is easier to play in my opinion. I have to say though, these Nordstrand electronics sound great. Even if they are not the in-house USA Nordstrands and are overseas, Nordstrand licensed pickups, they still sound very fantastic in my mind. They sound very bright, but you can really tame that with the 3-band preamp. I'll be playing with that preamp and then we'll check out the pickups individually. One other thing worth mentioning is the B string is very strong on this bass. It's very well defined and matches up with the rest of the strings nicely. Now let's play with this EQ a little bit. Let's start by taking everything all the way down. So this is full cut on all 3 controls. And our mid-frequency selector is in the middle. Let's call that 500 Hertz. I have no idea what it actually is, but let's call it 500 Hertz. Why not? Very nice. This preamp isn't too heavy-handed. Playing around with it a bit, off camera of course, I was impressed with the versatility, just like the Jack & Backer, which has a great preamp, which isn't too heavy-handed and doesn't overload your amp or anything. It's very nicely tuned. Now let's take our bass control up to center, leaving our mid-frequency selector centered as well, our mids cut, and our treble cut. Here's what that sounds like, both pickups engaged. Now let's take the bass control up all the way. Not bad. bad, not bad. Let's take that back down to center and bring our treble to center as well, leaving our mids cut. Here's that with the frequency selector centered. We haven't touched that yet. Let's play with this mid-frequency selector now. It is centered. Let's push it down and see what it does. So I believe that is the higher frequency. Let's call that 1000 hertz. Why not? This is cutting out the high mids versus the middle mids. Let's see what that sounds like. So this mid-frequency selector is very flexible and allows you to really shape this tone nicely. Let's boost the mids now to about, whatever, let's do it all the way with the treble and bass centered. We're going from a mid scoop to a mid bump. That mid bump with the higher frequency selected really brought out some nice growl. Now with both pickups selected, before I move on to the other configurations, let's see how this bass slaps. Not bad. The tight string spacing makes it a bit of a challenge, but I think this is much more well suited for pick players. Speaking of, let's grab our pick and then we'll move on to these pickups individually. Oh, not bad, not bad. Now let's check out these pickups individually. We'll have our preamp centered. First, let's check out the neck pickup. The blend control is wired backwards on this one. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like that, but that's how it is on here. So you will get a little bit of single coil noise in a noisy environment like what we have here because these are single coil pickups. Not a big deal as they're advertised as single coil, so you know what you're getting into. Here's what the neck pickup sounds like with the preamp centered. we're just gonna do the mid bump. I really liked that. Here is the high frequency select. Now let's do the opposite and do a mid scoop with the high frequency selected. Not bad. I think these pickups sound really nice. Next, let's go over to our bridge pickup. We're going to center our preamp, and here's what that sounds like. Next, let's do a mid cut, and we'll center our mid frequency selector here. Here's what that sounds like. Next, I'm going to center the pickup selector one more time. We'll center our preamp, and we're going to throw some drums behind this bass. So here are my final thoughts on the Jackson Soundgear, Spectra SB V from the Pro Series. Overall, I think it's an okay bass. However, for the particular price point that it's at, I would expect better hardware. And I would like a wider spacing to go with the chunkier neck. I feel like the narrow spacing combined with the chunky neck profile and the very flat radius of this fingerboard make the playing experience a little bit awkward. However, it does have a great sounding B string with this 35-inch scale construction, and I think these licensed Nordstrand pickups sound great paired to this 3-band preamp. Compared to the competition, it is lacking a passive tone control when the preamp is bypassed. Overall though, I feel like this bass falls a little bit short compared to the Soundgears that this thing is gunning for. I found the SR605E to be a bit more refined, even with its quality control issues, compared to this Jackson, in terms of just the neck profile, the playing experience, and the quality of the hardware. These bridge units are really lame and cheap. This is not high quality, and when you have a flagship instrument like this, you really need to up your hardware game. But that being said, the fit and finish is pretty good, these electronics sound nice, and the 35-inch scale makes for a very solid B string, and that is very prevalent here. So what am I going to rate the Jackson Pro Series Spectra SB V? I'm going to rate this bass 2 claws out of 5. It's an okay bass, but I feel like the competition is definitely hitting the mark in places where this thing is missing it. I feel like you can get a more feature-packed Soundgear for less money with the 605E and get a similar finish and similar look overall. You lose out on the 35-inch scale, but it's also several $100s cheaper. So overall, I really couldn't recommend this over an Ibanez Soundgear. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but I think that Jackson really needs to step up, especially in the hardware game, if they want to compete with Ibanez, who's been mastering this formula for decades. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, join our Discord channel, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Jackson Pro Series Spectra SB V. And as always, until we groove again,